Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me at benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcast because People of Distinction is a nationally and internationally syndicated show because of listeners like you. Our shows are available across all major podcast distributors as well as YouTube. And if you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. We appreciate the support. Continue to like and follow and sit back and strap in because on the line with us today, we have the amazing Albert Lynn Clark. We're going to be discussing his book, Ancient Destiny, Ship. Now, it's available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the regular online book resellers. But people, if you want to gather everything that Albert has in store, give yourself the greatest gift you can give and head on over to his personal website. That's albertlynclark.com. There, you're going to find more information on Albert himself. But get this, Ancient Destiny, which is, of course, the main anchor for today's interview, is one in a 4-part series. But that's not all. Albert has written other books as well, and you have to head on over to albertlynclark.com to gather it all. So one more time, that's albertlynclark.com. And before we go any further, I want to take this opportunity and point out the fact that Albert was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by one of the best advertising firms in the business, and people you already know, I'm talking about Author Reputation Press. So for my writers out there who have gone through their process and now you need help moving the book you just developed, contact ARP. They're one of the best in the business to do it, and this is exactly what their team specializes in. Head on over to authorreputationpress.com today and gather all the ways that their fantastic team is going to help you do just that. And listen, it is a true pleasure to have Albert here on the line. People, I'm telling you, the moment you start to do research on his book, Ancient Destiny, you're going to be just smacked in the face with a wild adventure. Okay, this is a sci-fi thriller that you're not going to be able to put down. This book is a journey worth taking, and you're going to lavish in it. At the end of the day, Albert is the expert, man. It's his book. He's written it. He's going to be able to articulate it all much better than I ever could. Albert, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing just fine.
Albert, listen, man, we're looking forward to this. I think what you've done here is entertaining to no end. Before we go into the book, start off by telling us a little bit more about yourself and your background, please. Who is Albert Lynn Clark?
Well, I spent 39 years with the Air Force as a retired military officer. Then I retired as a civil servant, and then I went to work as a contractor for the Air Force as a total civilian. So 39 years total with the Air Force, and I did love that in research and development. So,
there you have it. Military man through and through. Albert, thank you very much for your service, man. We appreciate it. Once again, welcome to People of Distinction. Let's jump right in. Ancient Destiny, Ship. Tell us a little bit more about your book. Let's start at the foundation. What does the story entail?
Well, I have always been interested in science as well as working in research and development, and several things that always come up in science fiction, which I've always been a fan of, is the fact that we always travel from planet to planet so easily, but how do you travel faster than the speed of light? Because if you can't travel faster than the speed of light, it's going to take generations to get from one star to another.
Yeah.
So I had to come up with a scientific explanation of how do you travel faster than the speed of light without using magic things like wormholes. Mm-hmm. And as far as asteroids, there was one that just went by only 20,000 miles from Earth. That's inside the orbit of our geosynchronous satellites that just went by this week. That was large enough to not wipe out civilization, but definitely take out a few cities.
Wow.
And we didn't know it was coming until it went by.
My goodness.
So anyway, I always keep track of such things. Anyway, this particular asteroid is months out, maybe years out. Ship has been tracking it ever since it destroyed Atlantis by causing a huge flood where it passed so close to Earth that it melted the glaciers and caused a 400-foot increase in the level of water worldwide. And that actually happened. This 12,000 years ago, roughly. That this big, the Great Flood you've heard about with Noah and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, it really happened, and there's scientific evidence to prove it. So just imagine if you had another 400 feet of water, and all of our coastal cities that are under 400 feet are submerged permanently. Civilization would be gone. Well, that's what happened to Atlantis. And so this book has got that same asteroid coming back again 20,000 years later. And the people of Atlantis, they pretty much escaped and gone off to some other planet somewhere in the universe, but they left behind an intelligent ship with artificial intelligence and all of the knowledge of Atlantis and the people before Atlantis to do just all kinds of things that we wouldn't imagine we could do in our world today. But it trained people like Aristotle, or more recently Tesla. You wonder where he came up with all those ideas. Well, that's because ship provided the information for him, and then he tried to produce those things on Earth, but a lot of it was beyond our current technology capabilities. So anyway, we've got a new captain of the ship. The ship selects a single captain to be the bearer of knowledge to Earth, to all the people of Earth. And he's always picked, established scientists before, but this time he decided to select a college student who would be more free to do whatever he wanted without having to have preconceived notions from his science background. So this college student goes to sleep in his dorm room, and he wakes up on a spaceship orbiting the Earth. And then the ship explains to him what the problem is and what he's going to have to do to change things around. And of course, he's got all the knowledge of ship that can be telepathically sent to him wherever he is. So his object then is to try to educate people to where they can escape Earth and colonize other planets in a very short period of time before that big asteroid comes by again. This time it's going to hit.
I love what you're talking about here, man. Your book is so incredibly compelling. Again, the narrative itself, this is something like I mentioned in the opening. This is something that we have seen shades of in Hollywood blockbusters, right? Armageddon being, I think, probably the one that comes to mind first. But the end of the world, and the end of the world because of an asteroid is by no means anything new, but you have so many wonderful nuances in your book. It makes it very compelling and entertaining. But at the same time, you are someone that is also very knowledgeable in this. I mean, you mentioned the asteroid that just passed Earth. I think you said this week. That is something that is news to me. I hadn't heard of it. But my goodness, how incredibly lucky we are, especially because also, as you mentioned, we didn't even know about the asteroid until it was already in our atmosphere and passing us by. That is a scary thought. I'm curious, two-part question here. First and foremost, the generic one, what inspired you to write this book? But then two, what type of research did you do to really fortify this concept and, really go into astronomy and planetary science influence in the narrative itself?
Well, something I've always been interested in. Back when I was in grade school, the grade school teacher told me that nothing could go faster than the speed of sound. That nothing could exist above the speed of sound. Well, I knew that wasn't true because back before I ever started grade school, I was reading things like Popular Science magazine and Popular Mechanics magazine, and I already knew that people in the X-15 had already gone faster than the speed of sound. So the question is, can you go faster than the speed of light? There are things that we have discovered in science just in the last few years that apparently are going faster than the speed of light. So it can happen.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, there was an experiment I was on Google News a couple of weeks ago about a university that managed to send photons of light faster than the speed of light from a distance. So it's possible. Anyway, I've taken a lot of years of knowledge and sort of put them all together. In the book, this asteroid is so big that when you try to send nuclear-tipped missiles at it, you really can't do a whole lot except knock little chunks off.
That's not going to do much. That's not going to do much.
So we got to evacuate Earth. And to do that, the Fort Craig, the ship's new college student captain, has to convince the great scientists of the world to invent new things very rapidly. And he's got to do that. He goes back to the university with some of his knowledge, and he creates things like a new metal that is practically indestructible, and some new aerodynamics that are just far and above anything that exists at the university level at that time. And he even goes into some medicine and provides a cure for cancer and things like that they experiment. Of course, it's going to take a while for them to be able to grasp it and to be able to actually witness what was happening when, in science. And so he is sort of overwhelmed. And because he's overwhelmed, he says, I can't do this by myself. Can Chip give me some help? And Chip says, no, well, according to my programming, which has been around for thousands of years, I can only have one captain, and that has to be a male. Okay, how about a female? Well, traditionally, by the people that built this ship back, thousands of years ago, they had a policy where they had 6 women per man for their colonization efforts, because women could travel better in space because they didn't need to breathe as much air and didn't have to have as much food. And with the help of the computer here, they don't have to have the physical strength of men. So colonies should be 6 women per man. Mm-hmm. So he goes about trying to find 6 women that could help him. So he has to find 6 different specialties, like astronavigation. How do you navigate among the stars? Well, he finds a student that's interested in that and been working on it in college. So he finds another one that's a zoology professor, not a professor, but wanting to be a professor in zoology, another biology, and so forth. So he builds up 6 women to join him as crew members to do their share of trying to educate the world, basically. And because of his scientific advances that he's actually providing that they can witness, like the new metal that they can't figure out how it's made, and he shows them how it's made, and they can produce it on their own. And so he gains credibility, and so of course that means he's also got to have finance. So one of his women he chooses happens to be a top senator's daughter who is interested in going into space, and he gets financing through the U.S. government to start some of the big efforts. And eventually, when the asteroid starts getting close where they can actually spot it on telescopes, then they start getting international attention. And so there they start building spaceships and colony ships and figuring out what has to go on a colony ship, and making equipment that they'd be taking with them to colonize a new planet, like simple bulldozers and things like that, made out of this new indestructible metal.
People, I'm telling you, this is something you need to add to your shelf. Again, it's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's albertlynclark.com. The book is called Ancient Destiny. Remember, it's a series of 4 books that you're going to want to take advantage of every single one of them. Albert, follow-up question that I'd love to get into, man. I'm curious, with regards to your readers, what emotions did you aim to evoke in your readers as your characters grapple with the reality of an impending doom? And how did you balance these with the narrative's tension and urgency? Talk to us really about what you're hoping your readers take from it. How are they meant to grapple with all of this?
Well, for one thing, they would probably hope to be one of the colonists, because they're going to send thousands of humans from Earth out to the stars in a very short period of time. So that means they're going to have to be selecting crew members for various different reasons, and training them to go on the colony ships. In the meantime, they're building colony ships, which is creating a whole new industries that have never been dreamed of before. And I'm hoping that people will get interested in science and take a look at the asteroids that are flying by us on a regular basis, like the one that just went by this week, that they didn't even know was there, but it was big enough to take out a few cities.
Let's talk about the duality between hope and despair. Well, I'm curious, how did you balance these themes of hope and despair throughout the narrative? And do you believe that stories about potential endings can still offer a sense of optimism or even redemption?
Well, hopefully people will get interested in science and not accept the fact that, like speed of sound, obviously things can exist above the speed of sound. You know, the Concorde airliner flew twice the speed of sound, but according to my grade school teachers, that wouldn't happen. Well, now we got the thing about you can't travel faster than the speed of light, but they proved that some things are traveling faster than the speed of light. So, let's take don't just assume that everything we learned is absolutely true, that we may be able to expand upon that.
Yeah.
And hope is going to another planet. Hey, Mars is not very hospitable. You can't, we're not going to be able to terraform it or anything like that. We've got to find a planet, and just in the last few years, we found hundreds of planets that might be livable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
and
got to figure out a way to get there.
Yeah, we got to figure out a way to get there, and you got to travel faster than light to get there.
Yeah.
So that's and I tried to do a good explanation of how we do that in the book.
Absolutely.
So, and then of course, part of the book is exploring for other planets that are habitable by actually visiting them in the ship, and the ship itself works on a technology that is not going to be available to the colonists from Earth. Mm-hmm. And it uses anti-gravity. It can accelerate from 0 to several million miles an hour instantaneously, but the people on board the ship don't even tell there's any difference. They were just standing there, and all of a sudden they're going millions of miles an hour because they're within that gravity bucket. And basically it repels from Earth and attracts toward other planets out there. And that's how it travels from one space to another, and can travel multiples of the speeds of light. And even in the series, they never find out just how fast it can go, but it's multiples of the speed of light, not just warp 10 like on Star Trek, but warp a million, whatever. In Star Trek, they travel to other planets within minutes. Mm-hmm. Well, that's obviously more than 10 times the speed of the light.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not sure what a warp is, but
Albert, final question here for you, man. Let's dive into our imaginations a little bit. Clearly, your book is a fictional narrative, but if we could, if we had the opportunity to bring the book to life, right, to make it real for a day, and you could enter the book at any point of it, any sequence, you could enter the first page, the last page, right in the middle. It's up to you. Which page would you choose, Albert, to actually enter and live for the day, and why?
Good question. Actually, probably toward the end of the book, when they discover that they find proof that people from Atlantis originally came from Mars. It'd be a good point to take a look at. When they find leftover of the civilization on Mars before they came to Earth and created Atlantis. That would be a good point.
Yeah.
And then of course, toward the end of the book one, they discover that the asteroid is coming a little faster than they thought, and they're running out of time.
Oh, man.
And that's where you go to volume 2.
And that's where you go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, albertlynclark.com, and you pick up these books, because I'm telling you, this is something that you need to get involved in. And we're not going to give you any more, okay? We've given you enough. If you're like me, you're at the edge of your seat. You're wanting to embark upon the book. You're wanting to open it up and just get lost in this magnificent journey. Head on over there today, pick up your copies, and figure out why I say that, people, because this is something you truly want to get lost in. Albert, this has been a true pleasure, man, an absolute delight. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Okay, well, it was a pleasure talking with you.